Millionaire abandoned his pregnant wife. She became richer. He begged on his knees. They say that every life holds a secret, but this secret was different. It was laced with heartbreak, betrayal, and the sharp sting of regret. Leonard Ashford, a charming millionaire, married the gentle and devoted Selena Rodriguez, only to abandon her when she was most vulnerable, pregnant with his child. Little did he know that fate would twist his fortune in ways he could never imagine. From lavish galas in London to humble dinners in Selena's one-bedroom apartment, their paths would cross again, revealing hidden motives, shattered promises, and a shocking reversal of fortunes. This is their story, one of heartbreak, resilience, and ultimate triumph. Leonard Ashford's origins were anything but ordinary. He grew up in an affluent family in New York, a family whose deep ties to international business and politics made them notorious in powerful circles. His father, Gregory Ashford, was a renowned real estate mogul who had once discussed potential developments in Austin, Texas, with none other than Elon Musk in a closed-door meeting. His mother, Diana Ashford, was a fashion icon who hobnobbed with supermodels and once shared a stage with Naomi Campbell at a prominent fundraiser. The Ashford name was an emblem of prosperity, style, and old money. From a young age, Leonard found himself surrounded by luxury. Summers on private yachts in the Mediterranean, winters in Swiss chalets, and an Ivy League education at Yale, every door opened for him with minimal effort. Charming, handsome, and charismatic, he was used to people fawning over him, and he rarely heard the word no. Yet for all the opulence in his life, Leonard carried a restlessness. He longed to prove that he, too, could build a legacy, independent of his parents' influence. By the age of 28, Leonard had launched a promising venture capital firm in Manhattan. With his father's network greasing the wheels, the firm raised millions in record time. It focused on tech startups and quickly garnered a reputation for delivering spectacular returns. At exclusive parties where celebrities and CEOs mingled, Leonard easily worked the room, making deals with a warm smile and a firm handshake. In his quest for establishing a name, Leonard had little time for genuine relationships. Romance, to him, was an afterthought, an indulgence for those who had time to waste. Yet, life has a way of steering us to unexpected corners. During a charity auction at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Leonard locked eyes with Selena Rodriguez for the first time. She was radiant in a simple navy blue dress, vastly different from the designer gowns flaunted by the wealthy socialites around her. She had an air of earnestness he found refreshing. While others dripped with diamonds and pearls, Selena wore a single locket around her neck, housing a tiny photograph of her late mother. The moment their eyes met, Leonard felt a strange pull. It wasn't simply attraction. He had seen countless beautiful women before it was something more profound. Selena worked as a charity liaison, advocating for underprivileged children in marginalized communities. She was there that evening to secure sponsorships for a school renovation project in the Bronx. Her sincerity made Leonard's lavish world seem shallow by comparison. Intrigued, he approached her, introduced himself, and offered to donate to her cause. But Selena was not swayed by his smooth approach or the Ashford name. She merely thanked him politely and went on her way, leaving Leonard feeling both amused and somewhat captivated. In the weeks that followed, Leonard found himself thinking of her often. He asked around discreetly, discovered which foundation she worked for, and arranged another chance meeting under the guise of discussing a potential donation strategy. Selena, still grieving the recent loss of her mother to illness, was at once careful and curious. She agreed to a dinner meeting where Leonard attempted to dazzle her with talks of high finance and his philanthropic desires. She listened but countered every attempt at self-praise with questions about how he intended to make a difference beyond mere writing of checks. For perhaps the first time, Leonard recognized that someone was testing the authenticity of his intentions rather than simply praising his wealth. A connection blossomed against the odds. Where Leonard had always boasted about his privileged background, Selina opened his eyes to the struggles of single-parent families, immigrants fighting for better opportunities, and the day-to-day hardships faced by those living below the poverty line. Her values began to shape his worldview, and for once, Leonard started to envision a purpose beyond multiplying zeros in his bank account. Sparks of genuine affection turned into a whirlwind romance. Soon, tabloids caught wind of Leonard's new relationship with a woman who, by their standards, had no pedigree or trust fund. Yet Selina's warmth and grounded nature were precisely what Leonard needed. He realized that amidst all the pomp and glitter, he had never truly felt an emotional anchor until her. However, not everyone was thrilled about Leonard's newfound love. His father, Gregory Ashford, looked upon Selina with thinly veiled disapproval. He believed a wealthy man needed a wife who came from a similarly influential lineage, someone who would strengthen business alliances. Selina, in his eyes, was a liability. Diana Ashford, although more gracious on the surface, echoed her husband's thoughts behind closed doors. She worried about the family's reputation, real estate deals, and how Selina might reflect on them at elite social gatherings. Despite parental pushback, Leonard proposed to Selina in front of the iconic fountain at Lincoln Center after they finished volunteering at a local fundraiser. She said yes with tears shining in her eyes, and, for a while, it seemed like love had conquered all. They wed in a modest ceremony in upstate New York, away from the high society glitz. Close friends and family gathered under blossoming cherry trees to celebrate their union. It was a day filled with hope, laughter, and whispered promises of a bright future. Yet, beneath the celebratory facade, seeds of discord were already sprouting. Over time, Leonard's parents launched a subtle campaign of disapproval, constantly reminding their son that his wife lacked the sophistication and social standing expected of an Ashford. Selina felt their animosity at family dinners, masked beneath forced smiles. When she tried to discuss charitable ideas or talk about the meaningful programs she managed, the conversation was swiftly pivoted to luxury travel or gossip about the rich and famous. Leonard, caught between his love for Selina and his ingrained loyalty to his parents, tried to smooth out differences, but tensions grew. Selina, determined to stand on her own feet, continued her humanitarian work. She frequently visited shelters, organized school supplies for children, and spent weekends attending local community events. Though she had access to Leonard's immense resources, she tried to remain humble, hoping to blend her world with his. If she could show his parents the positive outcomes of her efforts, maybe they would relent. However, each philanthropic success seemed to threaten the Ashfords more. They interpreted Selina's charitable endeavors as naive do-gooding, rather than a serious career. Through it all, Leonard struggled with conflicting loyalties. His business demanded extensive travel. He had meetings in Silicon Valley, potential expansions in Tokyo, and investor conferences in London. He was often away, leaving Selina alone in their modern penthouse, which overlooked Central Park. She tried to keep herself busy. On top of her foundation work, she took cooking classes, tried to network with various philanthropists, and planned for a small family of her own. When she discovered she was pregnant, her initial joy was tinged with concern about how the news would be received. Leonard had expressed conflicting desires about children. He claimed to want them one day, but always referenced the mounting pressures of his business. When Selina finally told Leonard she was expecting, he reacted with a mixture of astonishment, pride, and sudden anxiety. Would this new responsibility hamper his ambitious plans? He assured Selina he was thrilled, yet in private he fretted about the timing. Most of his friends from the venture capital world were still single or childless, traveling the globe to chase lucrative deals. Fatherhood would ground him, and that notion frightened him more than he cared to admit. During a dinner at the Ashford mansion to announce the pregnancy, the atmosphere quickly shifted from subdued politeness to an icy tension. Gregory Ashford offered a brief congratulations, but his eyes flickered with disapproval. Diana forced a smile, but it never reached her eyes. And just like that, Selina felt more unwelcome than ever. She excused herself to the patio, leaning on the rail, wondering if marrying into the Ashford dynasty had been a mistake. She loved Leonard, but she sensed that his family's disapproval and possibly his own doubts might overshadow their joy. Selina was no stranger to adversity. She had been raised by a single mother, Celia Rodriguez, an immigrant from Mexico who worked 2 jobs to put food on the table and ensure Selina got an education. Celia's unyielding dedication and love had instilled a stubborn resilience in Selina. Growing up, money was tight, but their small apartment in Queens was always filled with laughter, warmth, and optimism. Celia's dream was to see Selina graduate from college, a dream Selina fulfilled when she earned a scholarship to study social work at Fordham University. Every step of Selina's life was guided by her mother's teachings of compassion, empathy, and perseverance. Even after losing her mother to a long battle with cancer, Selina continued to channel Celia's spirit. She resolved that the negativity emanating from the Ashfords would not break her. She had a child on the way, and that child's future was her priority. She believed that, in time, her in-laws would see her sincerity. As her pregnancy progressed, Selina immersed herself more deeply into her work. She wanted to establish a foundation in her mother's name, the Celia Hope Foundation, to provide scholarships and healthcare support for underprivileged children. She had minimal funds to start with, but she possessed ample determination. With the small inheritance her mother had left and some savings she had managed to put aside, Selina quietly laid the groundwork. She sought advice from mentors like Dr. Andrea Johnson, a well-known pediatrician who had once worked with Michelle Obama on nutritional programs for low-income families. Dr. Johnson admired Selina's resolve and became an informal advisor for the fledgling foundation. Yet each time Selina tried to involve Leonard, he found excuses to delay. He was always between meetings or flights, constantly on calls with investors or attending glamorous soirees. Sometimes Selina felt more like a distant observer of his life rather than his partner. She consoled herself with the thought that once their baby was born, perhaps Leonard would embrace fatherhood, slow down, and find happiness in the simple joys of family life. As months rolled by, Selina's pregnancy entered its 3rd trimester. Instead of the excitement and preparation that typically surrounds expectant parents decorating nurseries, reading parenting books, dreaming of baby names, she and Leonard seemed to drift into separate orbits. Leonard was spending more time abroad, chasing new deals in Dubai and meeting potential European investors in Paris. His father also pressured him to expand the Ashford real estate empire, which meant Leonard was rarely home. When Selina insisted they discuss the baby's future schooling, healthcare, or even hiring a nanny, Leonard would brush the topics aside. "We have plenty of time," he'd say, or "let's talk after I close this deal. It's crucial for the firm." Their arguments became frequent, fueled by Selina's mounting frustration and Leonard's elusive behavior. One evening, as Selina tried to express her worries about raising a child who barely saw his father, Leonard snapped, "You don't get it, Selina. Everything I'm doing for us to ensure we have a stable future," he shouted, pacing around their living room. "I can't just drop these deals because you're feeling insecure." Tears welled up in Selena's eyes. "I'm not insecure. I'm pregnant, Leonard. This isn't just about us anymore. Our child needs you, needs both of us." He ran a hand through his hair, glancing at his phone buzzing on the table. "I need to take this," he murmured, ending the discussion abruptly. 2 days later, Selena received a sudden phone call from Leonard's assistant, informing her that he had flown to London. There was no prior mention of this trip. Confused and hurt, she tried calling him, but he only replied via text that it was urgent, a big opportunity. She had heard those words 100 times before. This time, though, the pang of abandonment stung deeper. She was 8 months pregnant, and her husband had left the country without warning. 2 weeks passed, without a single phone call, only sporadic texts about how busy he was. Selena felt an emptiness in their sprawling penthouse, each passing day confirming the suspicion that Leonard was distancing himself from her and from their unborn child. In a final attempt, Selena texted him, pleading for him to come home before the baby arrived. His reply was curt, "There's an important investor summit. I can't leave. I'll try to be back before the due date," but he did not return in time. Selena went into labor early, frightened and alone. She called her friend Mara Ortiz, who rushed her to the hospital. Through excruciating hours, Selena brought a baby boy into the world, naming him Gabriel after her maternal grandfather. Both mother and child were healthy, but Selena's heart was heavy. Leonard was nowhere to be found. Despite repeated attempts to reach him, she never even received a congratulatory note from London. When Leonard finally returned weeks later, he set foot in the penthouse and found it empty, the closets cleared, and the only reminder of Selena was a small letter on the marble kitchen counter. It read, "By the time you read this, Gabriel and I will be gone. You chose your path. We will find ours." She left no forwarding address. Selena moved out with the help of Mara, returning to the modest neighborhood in Queens where she felt more at home. While Leonard's betrayal pained her, she was determined to give Gabriel the nurturing environment he deserved. She contacted an old friend, Kevin McMillan, who worked as a legal consultant for non-profit organizations, for advice on how to finalize her departure from the marriage. Kevin warned her that stepping away from an Ashford would likely be complicated, given their resources and power. But Selena had no intention of demanding Leonard's wealth or fighting a legal battle for child support. She had lost faith in him. Her pride and the memory of her mother's struggles guided her to stand on her own. The day she filed for a formal separation, Gregory Ashford's legal team sent her a curt notice offering a settlement if she signed a non-disclosure agreement and relinquished any future claim to the Ashford fortune. Enraged by their lack of compassion, Selena refused. She wanted nothing from them. No hush money, no hush arrangement. She simply wanted her freedom and her child's well-being. She took a small apartment a few blocks from her childhood home. It was cramped, but it felt safe. Amid the baby's cries and midnight feedings, Selena quietly chipped away at establishing the Celia Hope Foundation, determined to create something meaningful out of her pain. She worked out of a makeshift home office, sometimes cradling Gabriel in one arm while typing grant proposals with the other. Little by little, she secured partnerships with other charitable organizations, forging alliances to make the foundation more visible. Although her resources were limited, her passion and sincerity proved compelling to donors seeking genuine impact. By the time Gabriel turned 1, Selena's foundation had begun to grow exponentially. A local news station did a segment on her philanthropic efforts, highlighting her journey from the wife of a millionaire to the founder of an emerging non-profit. The publicity led to more donations, volunteer sign-ups, and corporate sponsorships. Selena, now more confident, spoke at community gatherings, advocating for children's rights and educational reforms. She often invoked her mother's legacy, touching hearts and inspiring others to share their stories. Meanwhile, Leonard's world was shifting beneath his feet. The deals he had pursued in London failed to yield the hoped-for returns. In fact, one of the startups he heavily invested in collapsed in the wake of allegations of financial misconduct. His firm took a substantial hit, and rumors in the venture capital circuit implied that Leonard had become too reckless, too driven by quick deals rather than long-term strategies. Gregory Ashford, never one to handle public embarrassment graciously, berated Leonard for his lapses. Their relationship frayed under the pressure of financial disappointments. Diana Ashford privately blamed Selena for distracting Leonard, though Selena had not been in the picture for over a year. Gossip in upper-class circles painted Leonard as an overreacher who tried too hard to step out of his father's shadow. Back in New York, as the cracks in Leonard's professional life widened, his personal regret festered. Late at night, he revisited memories of Selena, her laughter, her kindness, the way she had gently laid her hand on her belly when she first felt Gabriel's kick. He was plagued by guilt for missing his son's birth, for leaving Selena alone, but pride, fueled by the Ashford name, kept him from reaching out. He told himself that if Selena wanted to return, she could. Instead, he drowned in work, attempting to salvage his reputation. Months turned into a year. The Ashford real estate deals stalled, and the venture capital firm's once soaring trajectory began to sputter. Investors withdrew, forcing Leonard to sell off shares and personal assets to stay afloat. The final blow came when a major partnership in Dubai collapsed due to an economic downturn. Leonard was left in a precarious financial situation. During this time, Selena's foundation was blossoming into a high-impact non-profit. Through Kevin McMillan's legal acumen and Dr. Andrea Johnson's network, the Celia Hope Foundation secured multiple grants, including one from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for a health outreach program in underprivileged neighborhoods. Media outlets picked up the story of a young single mother building an effective charity from scratch, propelled by her authentic empathy and first-hand understanding of hardship. Before long, Selena was invited to speak at conferences, sometimes sharing the stage with prominent philanthropists. One day, she met Emma Walton, a billionaire entrepreneur who had made her fortune in e-commerce. Emma was moved by Selena's passion and became the foundation's largest benefactor, pledging millions of dollars to expand educational programs. This massive infusion of capital allowed Selena to scale her operations to more cities across the United States, partnering with community centers, schools, and grassroots organizations. As the Celia Hope Foundation continued to grow, Selena was thrust into a new level of visibility. Though the impetus behind her success was purely philanthropic, the irony that she was wealthier in her own right than she had ever been during her marriage was not lost on her. She could afford a comfortable home for herself and Gabriel now, though she kept life modest, focusing resources on the foundation's mission. Still, her financial standing and philanthropic impact elevated her status in the very circles that once dismissed her. Word of Selena's success inevitably reached the Ashfords. Gregory and Diana bristled at the news, referring to her meteoric rise as an opportunistic spin. Leonard, however, felt pangs of both admiration and regret. But he was struggling to tread water in a sea of bad debts. With the collapse of multiple ventures, he faced lawsuits from disgruntled investors. He sold off his luxurious penthouse, but the funds barely scratched the surface of his liabilities. Once courted by the elite, he now found doors slammed shut as word of his failures spread. Though pride had kept him from seeing Selena for 2 years, desperation began to corrode his defenses. He missed his son. He had only glimpsed baby photos on social media, shared by mutual friends who had visited Selena's foundation events. The guilt gnawed at him, an ever-present reminder that he had failed as both a husband and a father. Finally, in a moment of vulnerability, Leonard reached out to Selina. He left a voice message. "I'm sorry for everything. I'd like to talk. I want to meet Gabriel." Selina wrestled with the decision. She had moved on emotionally, but part of her felt Leonard, at least, deserved to see his child. She agreed to meet him at a small cafe near her office. Leonard arrived, noticeably thinner and sporting dark circles under his eyes. Selina, on the other hand, looked poised and self-assured in her simple yet elegant attire. The contrast in their fortunes was stark. Leonard stammered an apology, tears forming in his eyes. He explained his financial downfall, the betrayals he experienced from once loyal business partners. He pleaded to see Gabriel, to at least become part of his son's life. Selina listened calmly, her heart aching not for the once proud millionaire who sat before her, but for the father who had abandoned his child. "The last time I saw you, I was pregnant and alone," she said, her voice unwavering. "Now you come to me with sorrow only because you've lost everything. Gabriel isn't a last resort, Leonard. He's a child who deserves consistent love." Leonard nodded, unable to maintain eye contact. "I know I can't fix what I did. I need a chance to do right by him. Please." Selina exhaled slowly. "Gabriel doesn't know you. He's only ever known me. If you want to be in his life, you have to prove it. This isn't about money or convenience anymore. It's about responsibility." Thus began Leonard's tentative reintroduction into Gabriel's world, though Selina remained guarded. She established boundaries and insisted any meetings occur under her supervision. Gabriel, at 2 years old, was too young to grasp the complexities of the situation, but he seemed to sense the tension between his parents. As Leonard tried to rebuild his life, his parents retreated to their Connecticut estate, laying low amidst the family's financial losses. Gregory considered forging new alliances or perhaps even pulling strings in Washington to secure government contracts, but the Ashford name had been tainted by Leonard's debacles. Whispers circulated that the once dominant Ashford empire was on the verge of collapse. Diana, always one for social appearances, insisted that they distance themselves from the scandal surrounding Leonard's failed ventures. She rarely spoke to her son, except to criticize him for tarnishing the family reputation. At one point, Gregory hinted at the possibility of cutting Leonard out of the will if he continued to associate with liabilities. By liabilities, he implied Selina. Leonard felt like a pariah, forsaken by the very family he once sought to impress. Seeking emotional solace, he found himself calling Selina more often, if only to ask how Gabriel was doing. His visits became regular. At first, Selina's friends were wary of his motives, but gradually, Leonard showed a genuine commitment to fatherhood. He accompanied Selina and Gabriel to the park on weekends, learning how to push a stroller and change diaper skills he had once dismissed as irrelevant. As he spent more time with his son, Leonard's perspective shifted. The ruthless ambition that once fueled him began to fade, replaced by a deeper yearning for family and connection. But the spectre of the Ashfords loomed. One afternoon, as Selina and Leonard were picking Gabriel up from daycare, they were met by Gregory Ashford's personal driver. He handed Leonard a sealed envelope bearing the Ashford family crest and quietly departed. Inside was a stern letter from Gregory, demanding Leonard attend a family gathering in Connecticut to discuss urgent business. The tone was unmistakably authoritarian, giving Leonard little choice but to comply. Selina was not invited, yet the tension in Leonard's voice when he told her about the letter suggested that the meeting would be unpleasant. Against her own instincts, Selina encouraged him to go. "Face them and see if you can salvage any relationship," she said, remembering the hopelessness she had once felt, yearning for familial acceptance. At least for Gabriel's sake. The sprawling Connecticut estate was eerily quiet when Leonard arrived. Massive oak trees lined the driveway, leading to a grand marble facade that once symbolized his safety net. Inside, Gregory and Diana greeted him with cold civility. Over brandy and hushed conversation, Gregory laid out the dire state of the family's finances. Several key properties were underwater, and with the tarnished reputation of Ashford Ventures, raising capital was nearly impossible. Leonard listened, stunned. In a moment of desperate vulnerability, Gregory proposed an arranged marriage between Leonard and the daughter of another billionaire family. The marriage, Gregory argued, could restore the Ashford name and bring in an influx of capital. Leonard stared at his father in disbelief. "You can't be serious," he muttered. "I'm already married, and I have a son." Gregory scoffed. "You are separated, and that woman, Selina, she's not part of this family anymore. You have a duty to secure our legacy." An argument erupted, filled with accusations and pent-up resentments. Diana tried to placate them, but ended up fanning the flames by claiming Selina had trapped Leonard with the pregnancy, that it was all a calculated plan to disrupt their family. Leonard, outraged, defended Selina for the first time in years. He told his parents how Selina had built a foundation that helped thousands of children, how she asked for nothing from the Ashfords, and how she never once attempted to harm the family name. He declared he would not enter any arranged marriage, nor would he abandon his child again. Gregory's face reddened with fury. "Then you leave me no choice. You're cut off, Leonard. The Ashford Empire will find another way. As far as I'm concerned, you're no longer my son." In a dramatic flourish, Gregory turned and walked away, with Diana following in tears. Leonard was left alone in the grand foyer, staring at the ornate chandelier above him, feeling both liberated and terrified. He had defied his father, chosen his child, and lost the Ashford name in a single moment. When Leonard returned to New York, he was emotionally shattered. He went straight to Selina's apartment, a place he once considered beneath his standards. Standing at her door, he recounted the confrontation with his parents, how he had been disowned for refusing to abandon Gabriel. Selina listened, conflicted by her lingering anger and her pity for Leonard's plight. He sank to his knees on her doorstep, tears streaming down his face. "I deserve no sympathy," he choked. "I only beg for one thing, the chance to be part of Gabriel's life, for real this time." Selina, tears in her own eyes, lifted him off his knees. "Our son doesn't need a father who grovels. He needs one who shows up, consistently." From that day forward, Leonard began the arduous process of putting his life back together. He took small consulting gigs with local businesses, made himself available to pick Gabriel up from daycare, and immersed himself in fatherhood. Selina watched warily at first, but gradually she saw Leonard's genuine transformation. The superficial sheen that once defined him was gone. In its place stood a man who was finally taking responsibility. Gabriel, now nearly 3, blossomed with both parents involved in his daily life. Selina still managed the rapidly expanding Celia Hope Foundation, often traveling to different states to launch new programs. On such trips, Leonard would care for Gabriel, feed him, read bedtime stories, and tuck him in at night, actions that once seemed unimaginable. Slowly, trust was rebuilt, brick by brick, through patience and shared devotion to their child. During one of Selina's travel engagements, an old flame from college, Christopher Lee, invited her to speak at a major gala in San Francisco. She accepted, and as part of her trip, she visited potential donors for the foundation. There, she secured a multi-million-dollar endowment from a group of Silicon Valley philanthropists. Word spread of her ongoing successes, and soon she was recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the top emerging philanthropists of the year. Back home, Leonard faced the aftermath of being cut off from the Ashford fortune. He lived simply and found pride in modest accomplishments. He discovered a new sense of purpose, volunteering for some of the foundation's local projects. He used his business acumen to help small community initiatives draft viable sustainability plans. And in the process, he learned that there was fulfillment in impacting lives directly rather than chasing ephemeral wealth. Despite Selina's guarded composure, she had never fully recovered from the trauma of her abandonment. She had shouldered years of heartache and self-doubt, uncertain if Leonard's transformation was durable or a passing phase. To complicate matters, rumors began swirling that the Ashfords might be involved in some shady dealings to save their empire, potentially inviting legal troubles that could affect Leonard. One afternoon, Selina was contacted by an investigative journalist, Natalia Perez, who had discovered questionable financial transfers within the Ashford real estate portfolio. According to Natalia, large sums were moved offshore to shell companies, possibly linked to political bribes. Leonard, though no longer part of Ashford Ventures, was still legally vulnerable if the authorities believed he had any involvement. Worried, Selina confronted Leonard, who was equally stunned. "I had no idea," he insisted. "My father never shared the full scope of his dealings with me, especially after I parted ways." Yet a subpoena arrived for Leonard, requesting his testimony in an ongoing federal investigation. Panicked, Leonard turned to Selina for support. Selina, recalling how he once left her in her darkest hour, could have refused to help, but she saw the distress in his eyes. She arranged legal counsel through Kevin Macmillan, who advised Leonard to be transparent about everything he knew, no matter how damaging it might be for Gregory. The day of the testimony, Leonard sat before a panel of stern-faced investigators, detailing the extent of his father's secrecy, the internal conflicts he had observed, and how he had been ostracized from the family business. Though he was not entirely off the hook, his cooperation placed the primary suspicion squarely on Gregory and his associates. Unbeknownst to Leonard, in the process of testifying, he might have accelerated the downfall of the Ashford Empire. As the federal investigation made headlines, the Ashfords were publicly disgraced. Gregory faced a myriad of charges, and Diana fled to Europe, dodging paparazzi and social humiliation. In the midst of this chaos, Selina's foundation soared even higher, thanks to the impeccable transparency and efficiency under her leadership. She received an invitation to appear on a daytime talk show hosted by a prominent media personality, Carmen West. Carmen's show had a nationwide audience, and Selina's appearance would further legitimize her philanthropic brand. On air, Carmen asked probing questions about Selina's past, her marriage to Leonard, and her journey from near destitution to philanthropic stardom. Selina maintained her composure, emphasizing the role of her mother's teachings and the mission of the Celia Hope Foundation. When Carmen asked about Leonard, Selina paused before responding. "We've had our differences, and he made choices that hurt both me and our child. But people can change. I've seen him grow. My priority is my son's well-being, and I believe a child should know a father who is truly present." That evening, after the interview aired, Leonard watched from his small living room, tears in his eyes. The woman he had once betrayed had just publicly offered him a path to redemption. He felt a surge of gratitude, recognizing that Selina's capacity for forgiveness was beyond anything he deserved. A few weeks had passed since Leonard's testimony before the federal panel. The sting of facing his father's illegal dealings remained fresh in his mind, but Leonard found solace in the small, everyday moments he now shared with Gabriel. He still marveled at how drastically his life had changed. He had traded designer suits for a more modest wardrobe, replaced high-stakes investor meetings with playdates and story time. Each day was a reminder of the family he had once neglected, a chance to earn back the trust he had shattered. Selina had been busier than ever. Her foundation's continuing success meant constant travel and a packed schedule, but she always found a way to prioritize Gabriel. Whenever Selina had an out-of-state engagement, Leonard stepped up to care for their son, filling lunchboxes with healthy snacks and fumbling through bedtime routines that, for the first time in his life, felt immensely meaningful. Despite their improved rapport, a silent tension hovered between Selina and Leonard, an unspoken question of whether their renewed partnership was temporary or had the potential to blossom into something stronger. On a crisp autumn evening, Selina received an email from Gabriel's preschool teacher, inviting all parents to a small recital the children had prepared. The news filled Selina with warmth, yet also a flutter of anxiety. She hesitated before messaging Leonard. "Gabriel has a recital next week. Would you like to come?" His response, a simple "I'd love to," brought a genuine smile to her face. Though it was a standard parental duty, for Leonard, it symbolized a milestone, a chance to be present, to stand in the crowd as a proud father. The day of the recital arrived, the sun shining bright above a gentle October breeze that rustled the golden leaves. Clusters of parents gathered in the preschool's modest auditorium, a cheerful space decorated with crayon drawings and motivational posters. Selina and Leonard settled into miniature chairs in the second row, exchanging polite nods with other parents who recognized Selina from local news coverage of her foundation. If they knew of Leonard's past fame or infamy, they offered no sign. They were just parents coming to see their children perform. Gabriel's class shuffled onto a small stage, covered in colorful construction paper leaves. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and denim overalls, he waved enthusiastically upon spotting Selina and Leonard. Selina gave him a thumbs up, her heart swelling with pride. Leonard, equally moved, captured the moment on his phone, his hands shaking slightly. He whispered, "He looks so grown up," and Selina nodded, realizing how quickly time had passed. The children began singing a heartfelt tune about friendship and family, their voices earnest and a little off-key. Yet it was perfect. Selina felt tears prick her eyes as she remembered the lonely nights spent rocking a newborn Gabriel to sleep, all the times she yearned for a partner who seemed too lost in his own world to be by her side. Now, here Leonard was, physically present and emotionally attuned, cheering for the child he had once abandoned. Once the applause died down and the tiny performers had bowed, parents clustered around the stage to take photos. Gabriel ran over, arms wide, and Leonard scooped him up. "You were amazing, little man," he beamed, pressing a kiss to Gabriel's cheek. Selina smoothed a stray curl on Gabriel's forehead, whispering, "We're both so proud of you." The trio posed for pictures, freeze framing a moment Selina could scarcely believe was real. After the recital, they headed to a nearby park. The air was crisp, the ground blanketed in vibrant leaves of red and gold. Gabriel, eager to burn off his post-performance energy, scampered off to chase squirrels and pick up acorns. Selina and Leonard followed behind at a leisurely pace, a comfortable silence settling between them as they watched their son's carefree laughter float through the autumn air. Eventually, they found a wooden bench beneath a towering oak tree. Gabriel, enthralled with the squirrels, kept a safe distance but stayed within sight. Leonard sat beside Selina, fiddling with a fallen leaf between his fingers. His expression shifted from content to apprehensive, as if weighing the right words to say. "Selina," he began softly, "I know I haven't earned the right to ask for much. After everything I did walking away, missing the birth, failing to be there when you and Gabriel needed me most, believe me, I'm aware of how deep that hurt runs." He paused, his voice cracking, "But I love you both more than anything. Spending time with Gabriel these past months has been," he exhaled, struggling to capture the depth of his emotions. "It's been the greatest gift of my life, the one I never deserved." Selina sat silently, her gaze fixed on Gabriel. She recalled the mornings he used to wail inconsolably, missing a father he had never truly known. She remembered her own tears and sleepless nights, hating how much she still loved a man who refused to see the treasure he had right in front of him. And yet, people changed. She had witnessed Leonard's transformation, his humility in seeking help after losing his fortune, his devotion to Gabriel, and his newfound empathy for those less fortunate. Leonard placed a tentative hand on her shoulder, prompting her to look at him. His eyes glistened with tears. "I want us to be a real family, Selina. Not because I have no other options, not because I've lost my wealth or been cut off by my parents, but because," he swallowed hard, "because losing you made me realize how empty my life was, how meaningless my pursuits were without you and Gabriel. I've never been more certain about anything. I want to do right by you both." The sincerity in his voice made Selina's own throat tighten. She recalled the facade Leonard once wore, the polished, arrogant millionaire who threw money at every problem. But this man beside her was different. He was vulnerable, remorseful, and above all, sincere. She thought of her own journey, how she had forged ahead with the Celia Hope Foundation, raising Gabriel alone, battling social judgments, and emerging stronger and wealthier in a way that had nothing to do with bank accounts. Could she let him back in? Her mind spun with memories and emotions. The nights she curled up in bed clutching Gabriel, the day she found out her foundation had secured its first $1 million grant, the feeling of empowerment when she refused the Ashfords' hush money. And now, here was Leonard, no longer the golden Ashford heir, but a father hungry for redemption. She took a shaky breath, tears threatening to fall. "I can't forget everything that happened," she said, her tone measured but laced with vulnerability. "I can't erase the pain or the fact that you walked away when I needed you the most. But I see the man you're becoming. You've shown up consistently for Gabriel. You've faced your father in court to protect yourself and us from his corruption. You've admitted your mistakes. That means more than you know." Leonard nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. "I promise I'll keep showing you, day after day, that you can trust me. No more lies, no more vanishing acts, just us." Selina reached out and took his hand. "If we do this again," she said, her voice trembling with cautious hope, "it has to be on equal terms: respect, honesty, and shared responsibility. Not just for Gabriel's sake, but for ourselves. We deserve a real partnership." Leonard squeezed her hand gently, an almost disbelieving smile tugging at his lips. "I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you that we can have that partnership." A rustling sound interrupted them, and they looked up to see Gabriel standing a few feet away, leaves stuck to his shoes and a curious expression on his face. "Mummy, Daddy, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" he asked, clutching a handful of acorns. Selina and Leonard exchanged a glance, both laughing through tears at the innocent question. Leonard knelt down and opened his arms. "Nothing's wrong, kiddo. We're just happy you did so well at your recital." Gabriel beamed, bounding into his father's embrace. Selina joined them, and for a moment it felt as though the swirling leaves and the world around them melted away, leaving only the warmth of a family reuniting. From that day on, their journey toward reconciliation began in earnest. They decided to attend counseling sessions, determined to confront old wounds and rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty. Week by week, they tackled their pain and insecurities head-on. Leonard openly confronted the guilt of his abandonment, while Selina found the words to express the loneliness and anger she had endured. It was not an easy process. Raw emotions flared, and difficult memories resurfaced. But every session ended with a reaffirmation of why they were fighting so hard, for each other, and especially for Gabriel. As the holiday season approached, they moved into a modest townhouse near the Celia Hope Foundation's headquarters. The space wasn't nearly as grand as Leonard's former penthouse, but it felt safe, welcoming, and genuine. Selina hung pictures of Gabriel at various stages of his young life, his first steps, his first birthday, a Polaroid of him asleep on her chest when he was just a baby. Leonard placed a photo of all three of them at the park, the one from the day of Gabriel's recital on the mantel, silently vowing never to let them down again. In those early winter evenings, Leonard would read bedtime stories to Gabriel while Selina finalized her foundation's year-end fundraising campaigns. Sometimes she'd catch Leonard sitting by Gabriel's bed, even after the little boy had fallen asleep, simply watching him, as if trying to make up for the countless nights he'd missed. Selina understood that journey all too well. The path to redemption was paved with small, everyday commitments, not grand gestures. Slowly, a fragile yet profound bond formed between the two adults who had once been strangers in the same marriage. They discovered new ways to support each other. Leonard offered his business acumen to guide her foundation's strategic planning, while Selina encouraged him to find new meaning in community-based work. They laughed over Gabriel's comedic attempts at making breakfast in bed, navigated typical toddler tantrums, and found themselves cherishing life's simplest blessings. Though the scars of the past did not disappear, they no longer dictated the future. Love began to flourish in the quiet corners of their ordinary days, shared cups of coffee in the morning before Gabriel woke up, playful banter in the grocery aisle, and late-night whispers about hopes and dreams that now included one another. And so, in the glow of a second chance, Selina and Leonard walked forward hand in hand. Each step they took a testament to the transformative power of accountability, forgiveness, and unwavering devotion. Over the next few months, life took on a quieter rhythm. Leonard continued consulting and even explored philanthropic work alongside Selina. He discovered a passion for mentorship, guiding young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds who lacked the connections he once took for granted. Selina expanded her foundation's reach internationally, collaborating with schools in Latin America, a personal dream of hers to honor her mother's heritage. Their relationship, though not without lingering tensions, flourished under the shared mission of giving Gabriel the stable family life neither of them truly had. As they navigated the complexities of forgiveness and love, they built a future on a foundation stronger than wealth, one of trust, empathy, and mutual respect. Though the Ashford Empire lay in ruins, Leonard found peace in the simpler joys of everyday life, helping Gabriel with art projects, discussing global philanthropic strategies with Selina, and cooking family dinners, something he had never imagined himself doing in his penthouse days. Friends who once scoffed at Selina now admired her resilience, and those who once envied Leonard's wealth found themselves respecting him more for his character growth than for his bank balance. In the end, the tables had turned in the most unexpected way. The abandoned pregnant wife had risen to a position of influence and compassion, a beacon of hope for thousands. The millionaire, once consumed by superficial achievements, learned the humbling power of love and redemption. And as they stood together, watching Gabriel blow out the candles on his third birthday cake, it was clear that life's truest fortunes were not found in stock portfolios or luxurious mansions, but in the unwavering bonds of family and the promise of second chances. Thank you for joining us on this emotional roller coaster where betrayal met forgiveness and heartbreak paved the way for hope. If you were moved by Selina's resilience and Leonard's journey from arrogance to humility, remember that real-life redemption stories can happen when people choose compassion and responsibility over pride. We all face pivotal moments that test our character. Sometimes we're broken by them, and sometimes we rise stronger, transforming pain into purpose.
Have you ever wondered how one scandalous leak could destroy an entire empire overnight? Picture this. A stunning millionaire, revered as a philanthropic tycoon, and his radiant pregnant wife, seemingly the perfect power couple. But beneath the glossy photographs and luxurious charity galas, dark secrets simmer. When an explosive video surfaces online revealing her husband's steamy affair, the pregnant wife doesn't crumble in silence. Instead, she steps into the blinding lights of a press conference, shocking the world and obliterating his career in a single heartbeat. Get ready for a tale of betrayal, resilience, and a downfall so swift it will leave you breathless. Ava Carmichael first met Oliver Carmichael at a fundraiser for the Wilson Children's Hospital in Chicago. Oliver was the guest of honor, a self-made millionaire who had gained national fame after selling his tech startup to Google for a fortune rumored to be in the hundreds of millions. Ava, then a junior event planner, was charged with ensuring the evening ran smoothly. From the moment she locked eyes with him across the packed ballroom, her world shifted. He approached her with a gentle smile and an outstretched hand. Polite conversation turned into an exchange of dreams and life goals. The chemistry between them was electric. Oliver, charming yet aloof, was drawn to Ava's warm-hearted nature and pragmatic approach to life. Their whirlwind romance made headlines in society pages when Oliver took Ava to a private island in the Caribbean. Photos of them strolling barefoot on a secluded beach landed in People magazine, and whispers of an engagement soon surfaced in tabloids. By the time he proposed under a canopy of twinkling fairy lights in front of 1,000 roses, Ava was head over heels. The wedding was a grand affair at the historic Drake Hotel, with the CEO of Morgan Stanley among the guests, and a performance by a famous R&B singer that Oliver secretly flew in. Their union was hailed as a modern fairy tale, the philanthropic tech millionaire and the compassionate event planner uniting their energies to make the world a better place. But in every fairy tale lurks a moment of darkness, and for Ava and Oliver, it was just around the corner. A year after their lavish wedding, Ava discovered she was pregnant. The news filled the Carmichael mansion with excitement. Oliver appeared overjoyed. He'd often spoken of wanting a large family, and Ava was ecstatic to finally be starting that journey with him. They announced the pregnancy during a red carpet charity gala benefiting children with rare diseases. Ava wore a flowing emerald green gown that discreetly showed off a blossoming baby bump. When she and Oliver stepped onto the stage, the entire crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment Oliver placed a tender hand on Ava's stomach. Soon after, local outlets like the Chicago Tribune covered the Carmichael baby buzz, praising Oliver for his ongoing philanthropic endeavors. A short feature on NBC's Today Show hinted that the Carmichaels might become America's new it couple. Ava was flattered, albeit slightly overwhelmed by the sudden attention. Behind the scenes, however, something was off. Oliver had become more distant, engrossed in late-night phone calls and cryptic text messages. When Ava asked about them, he brushed her concerns aside with practiced ease. "It's just business, sweetheart." She tried to believe him. After all, she knew the burden of running a multi-million-dollar conglomerate was enormous. But as her belly grew, so did her suspicions. Faint clues, the lingering trace of unfamiliar perfume on his collar. A second phone he never let her see gnawed at her peace of mind. Still, Ava reassured herself that any man under immense pressure could behave evasively. She clung to hope that once their baby arrived, Oliver would slow down and refocus on their family. Little did she know the cracks forming in their marriage were about to split wide open. With each passing week of her pregnancy, Ava noticed that Oliver's schedule became more erratic. Some nights he would rush through dinner offering half-hearted compliments about her cooking and then dash off to emergency meetings. Other times he'd claim to be traveling for business expansions, leaving Ava alone in their expansive mansion, the echo of her own footsteps, a constant reminder of her isolation. What truly unsettled Ava was the subtle shift in Oliver's demeanor. He was no longer the attentive husband who'd once tracked down her favorite bakery an hour away to bring her freshly baked croissants. Instead, he seemed perpetually preoccupied, scrolling his phone under the dinner table, offering only partial attention to Ava's excited updates about the baby's kicks. In an attempt to distract herself from mounting worries, Ava threw herself into philanthropic work. She organized a fundraiser for hurricane relief, collaborating with real-life crisis manager and PR expert Liz White, a name well known in Chicago's elite circles for orchestrating big fundraising galas. Liz noticed Ava's tense smile and asked if everything was okay at home. Ava merely shrugged it off with a practiced grin. Little did Ava know Liz would soon become more than just a professional acquaintance. Liz's skill in handling scandals and public image crises would be invaluable when the Carmichael family's private pain exploded onto the public stage. For now, Ava remained clueless about the danger simmering beneath the surface. She believed the biggest concern she faced was coaxing Oliver to show up on time for doctor's appointments, but in the hush of her mind, a quiet fear took root. If Oliver was pushing her away, who or what was he pulling closer? Ava never considered herself a snoop. She valued privacy and believed that trust was the bedrock of any strong relationship. But as uncertainty haunted her nights, she found herself unable to resist the urge to peek into Oliver's world. One evening, when Oliver announced yet another urgent meeting and sped off in his car, Ava was left in the large, empty mansion, feeling the baby stir inside her. The sense of foreboding was unbearable. She walked into his home office, a spacious, modern study lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Her eyes landed on his desktop computer, which glowed with a faint screensaver. With trembling hands, she jiggled the mouse. To her surprise, no password prompt appeared. The desktop opened immediately to an email account. A pang of guilt clutched her, but desperation drove her to click. Most messages were innocuous business correspondences, but a name caught her eye. Miranda Devereaux, a high-profile interior designer from New York. Ava recalled Oliver mentioning Miranda once, someone he was hiring for a new condo project. She clicked on the email thread and found an exchange of flirtatious notes, culminating in a few short video clips. Heart pounding. Ava hesitated before opening them. The first clip showed Oliver at a hotel bar, with Miranda leaning in intimately. The second clip was longer security camera footage from the hotel corridor. It showed Oliver and Miranda entering a suite together late at night, arms wrapped around each other. A wave of nausea overwhelmed Ava, nearly overshadowing the usual pregnancy queasiness. Without a second thought, she pressed forward and sent the emails and clips to herself. She had seen enough, and her world would never be the same again. Oliver returned well past midnight, reeking of expensive cologne. The moment he stepped inside, Ava's tears were already running down her cheeks. She waited for him in the living room. The lights dimmed to a cold glow. Her hands gripped her phone, the forwarded videos ready to play at any second. Ava, he called, visibly startled by her tear-streaked face. "What's wrong?" She didn't bother with niceties. Heart pounding, she pressed play on her phone, letting the damning footage speak for itself. The room filled with the muffled sounds of Oliver's laughter in that hotel corridor, Miranda's figure clinging to his arm. Oliver's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his usually controlled features. He reached for the phone. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, voice tight. Ava yanked it away, raw hurt radiating in her gaze. "So it's true," she breathed. "You've been cheating on me. With her." At first, Oliver tried to deny it. Words like misunderstanding and business acquaintance tumbled from his mouth. But the evidence was incontrovertible. Finally, he sank onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair. It was just once he muttered, eyes downcast. "A mistake. You have to believe me." Ava's indignation flared. "A mistake. You've been emailing her for months, from what I can see." "Don't lie to me, Oliver. Not now." He bowed his head, too ashamed or too trapped to continue. Furious tears streamed down Ava's face, and she felt the baby kick within her, a cruel reminder of the life she carried, the future she was trying to protect. In that instant, the fairy tale they'd built shattered into pieces, leaving Ava with only heartbreak and betrayal. Ava spent the night in the guest bedroom, barely sleeping. Every time she closed her eyes, the images of Oliver with Miranda replayed like a cruel nightmare. By dawn, she felt hollowed out, yet beneath the grief grew a potent anger she had never experienced before. Before Oliver left for work the next day, she confronted him in the kitchen. She was still in her pajamas, hair disheveled, a world away from the poised socialite she'd become known as in Chicago's charity circuit. "End it," Ava demanded, voice quivering with anger. "Break it off with Miranda for good, and tell the press you're stepping down from the Devereaux project, and you'll be going to marriage counseling with me." Oliver looked at her for a long moment. He seemed more fatigued than she had ever seen him. "I'll end it, Ava," he promised, exhaling sharply. "I don't want to lose our family." The words should have comforted her, but they didn't. The betrayal ran too deep. "I'm pregnant with your child, Oliver. Do you even understand what this stress is doing to me, to our baby?" His silence spoke louder than any defense he could muster. He offered a half-hearted nod before leaving. Ava watched him go, unsure if she had just saved their marriage or delayed its collapse. Though she demanded a swift end to his infidelity, a haunting question nagged at her. Could trust ever be fully repaired once it was broken? Little did she know the storm was only beginning, and a single promise from Oliver would do little to protect them from the catastrophe that awaited. Unable to bear the suffocating loneliness of the mansion, Ava sought solace with her closest friend, Delilah Pierce. They met at a cozy neighborhood cafe, where Delilah arrived with open arms and a wave of concern evident in her eyes. In hushed tones, Ava recounted the entire saga, from the suspicious late nights to the damning hotel footage. Delilah listened occasionally, clutching Ava's hand, her coffee growing cold. "I always had a bad feeling about Oliver's constant business trips," she admitted, a note of regret in her voice. "I'm sorry I never brought it up." Ava found some measure of comfort in Delilah's empathy. "I feel so stupid," she said, tears threatening to spill once more. "How could I not see it sooner?" Delilah gave Ava's hand a firm squeeze. "Don't blame yourself. Oliver's the one who made this choice. You're carrying his child. You deserved better." Over the next hour, Delilah offered unwavering support, suggesting therapy resources, and even offering to help Ava prepare for any potential legal issues. "You have to protect yourself, especially with the baby on the way. I know a great lawyer, Samantha Holden, who handled my cousin's messy divorce, just in case." Though the mention of a lawyer made Ava's stomach churn, she recognized the importance of covering all her bases. As they parted ways, Delilah vowed to stand by her side through the ordeal, no matter how ugly it got. Walking back to her car, Ava felt slightly less isolated, but the protective bubble of friendship could only do so much. She would have to face the storm head-on, whether Oliver kept his promise or not. A few days later, the hush of early morning was shattered by Ava's phone, buzzing relentlessly on the bedside table. She groggily picked it up to see dozens of messages and missed calls. Her heart pounded. Could something have happened to Oliver? But as she opened social media, dread coiled in her stomach. A gossip account with thousands of followers had posted a scandalous blind item about a tech mogul with a pregnant wife caught in an affair with a New York socialite. The post included grainy stills from the very hotel footage Ava had discovered, though faces were blurred. Her phone exploded with notifications, friends, acquaintances, even random strangers wanting details. Overwhelmed, Ava felt the baby move as though sensing the turmoil. She quickly turned off her phone, tears stinging her eyes. In a panic, she rushed downstairs to find Oliver. He was in his office phone, pressed to his ear, shouting into the receiver. She overheard him say, "I don't care what it costs, just kill the story," before slamming the phone down. Their gazes locked. Ava's heart sank at the desperation etched across his features. "Someone leaked it?" she asked, voice trembling. He nodded grimly. "Yes, but we can't be certain who. It might be someone from the hotel staff or someone else." He shot her a look, as if suspecting she had shared the video. Ava bristled, stepping back. "Do you really think I'd do that? You promised to end this, Oliver. Now look what's happening." Guilt flashed across his face, replaced almost instantly by defensiveness. "We need to put out a statement denying everything. My entire career could be on the line." Ava swallowed hard. She wasn't ready for the media circus, but it was already knocking at their door. Their once private nightmare was about to go very, very public. Oliver scrambled to manage the crisis, summoning his high-profile PR team, led by the formidable Kate Winthrop, a specialist in damage control for celebrity and corporate scandals. Within hours, she arrived at the Carmichael mansion with a flurry of assistants' laptops and a meticulously organized crisis management plan. "We're dealing with an unverified leak," Kate said briskly. "We have two primary strategies: deny or deflect. If we deny, you risk fueling the rumor mill. If we deflect, we might direct attention elsewhere, but it has to be believable." Oliver paced the room, raking a hand through his hair. "What about claiming these images are doctored? That this is just an attempt to undermine my philanthropic work?" Kate's expression remained neutral. "We can try that, but the pictures look too authentic. And if more footage surfaces, we'll be caught lying." Ava observed the meeting from a corner, her mind swirling. She felt like a spectator at the unveiling of her own heartbreak, reduced to a mere prop in Oliver's PR strategy. As talk of hush money and NDAs swirled, she felt the baby kick a stark reminder that this crisis was not just about reputations, but the future of her family. Eventually, Oliver turned to her. "Ava, I need you to stand by my side. We have to present a united front." His words were a bitter pill. She recalled his promise to end the affair. Yet here they were, strategizing about half-truths and misdirection. Ava thought of the unborn child, of the intense scrutiny they would soon face. With shaky resolve, she nodded. She hated the idea of lying to the public, but she also couldn't bear the thought of the scandal smashing their life to bits. She had no idea that the worst was still to come. Even as Oliver's PR team prepared an official statement labeling the footage misleading and maliciously edited, a new crisis brewed behind the scenes. Miranda Devereaux. The woman at the center of the scandal refused to quietly fade away. Instead, she began making demands of her own. One evening, Oliver returned home from an emergency meeting with Miranda's lawyers. Ava watched his strained face as he poured himself a stiff drink. "She's threatening to release a full statement," he muttered. "Claims she's got text messages, voice memos, everything. She wants compensation, or she'll go public." Ava felt an icy dread settle in her stomach. If Miranda released more evidence, the shallow denials being fed to the media would crumble instantly. "So what are you going to do?" she asked, voice tight. Oliver's silence was telling. He tossed back his drink before answering. "We're negotiating. She wants a huge sum, plus some endorsement deals for her design business. It's extortion, basically." The thought of Oliver paying off Miranda made Ava's skin crawl. "And you're seriously considering it?" He ran a hand over his face. "If it means saving my reputation, yes. You don't understand what's at stake. Our philanthropic work, my investments, people rely on me. If I go down, a lot of people will be hurt." For a split second, Ava wondered if Miranda was truly the villain here. After all, she hadn't vowed to be faithful. Oliver had. The line between right and wrong blurred beneath the weight of scandal, greed, and betrayal. In that moment, Ava realized that Oliver's talk of saving his reputation might overshadow his concern for their marriage or the innocent child they were bringing into a world of lies. Waking up to relentless texts and calls from acquaintances, Ava found her anxiety hitting new heights. Even visits to her OB/GYN became fraught with tension as she feared being recognized and judged. Everywhere she went, it felt like eyes were on her analyzing the scandal. Social media was ablaze with speculation. A few brave tabloids even claimed to have exclusive new evidence pending release. The constant swirl of rumors left Ava hollow and exhausted. Did half of Chicago already assume Oliver was cheating? Did they pity her, or worse, mock her for staying alone in her bedroom? Ava scrolled through her phone, scanning social media. She came across a tweet from Anderson Cooper, a real-life figure known for calling out hypocrisy on his CNN segments, commenting generally about the moral failings of the wealthy and powerful. Although it didn't mention Oliver by name, the timing was suspiciously pointed. She felt a spike of anxiety. Ava found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. How many times had Oliver lied? Was he truly remorseful or just scrambling to hide his tracks? And what if Miranda wasn't the only affair? The seeds of doubt took root, thriving in the soil of shattered trust. One thing became undeniable. If this story escalated further, Oliver's polished facade would collapse. The philanthropic golden boy would be exposed as a fraud, and Ava would be caught in the crossfire. For the sake of her baby, she had to find a way to protect herself, even if it meant going against the man she had once adored. Just as Kate Winthrop and her crisis team finalized a hopefully worded statement for Oliver to deliver, the bomb dropped. Late one evening, a popular YouTube channel called City Secrets Unmasked posted the unedited high-definition version of the hotel footage. This time, the camera angle was clear as day. Oliver's face was unmistakable, laughing, leaning in, whispering to Miranda, before disappearing into a room. Within minutes, the video was trending. National outlets picked it up, and Twitter erupted with the hashtag Carmichael Scandal. Oliver's name soared to the top of search engines, overshadowing even major political news. Ava watched the chaos unfold from the living room television, the baby's weight pressing on her ribs as if in response to her stress. She felt an overwhelming desire to flee to escape the relentless spotlight. But this was her life. There was nowhere to hide from the digital mob. Within hours, the Carmichael mansion was besieged by paparazzi. Some had the audacity to shout questions about her pregnancy, insinuating that the unborn child might not even be Oliver's. Ava gasped at the cruelty. The speculation stung like an open wound. Oliver was unreachable, holed up in his corporate office downtown, bombarded by phone calls from investors and lawyers. Alone. Ava cradled her belly tears, silently rolling down her face. The humiliation was staggering. She wondered, had Oliver realized in his pursuit of forbidden thrills that the collateral damage would be so immense as the scandal spread beyond the local Chicago scene? Ava knew one thing for sure: there was no more denying or deflecting. The world had just gotten a front-row seat to their marital nightmare. Desperate to hear Oliver's side of the story, and furious at his vanishing act, Ava summoned her strength and drove to the headquarters of Carmichael Innovations, located in a sleek, glass-paneled tower in the heart of downtown Chicago. Security guards recognized her instantly and allowed her up, though they exchanged anxious glances. Inside Oliver's office, she found him in a tense meeting with his board of directors. They huddled around a massive mahogany table, glowering at him as if he were a pariah. The room fell silent when Ava walked in her visibly pregnant figure, a jarring reminder of the personal turmoil overshadowing their corporate meltdown. "Gentlemen," Oliver began, attempting composure. "This is my wife, Ava." She faced them chin high, despite the dread curling in her stomach. "Could I speak to my husband alone?" she asked softly, though her eyes burned with determination. Most of the board members exited without protest, some casting disapproving looks at Oliver. Once they were gone, Ava unleashed the questions that had kept her awake at night. "You said you'd end things, but the world has proof that you didn't. How could you lie to me again?" Oliver rubbed his temples, eyes bloodshot from stress. Miranda was supposed to keep it quiet. She swore she wouldn't let it get this far. "I tried to fix it, Ava, I really did." His words only stoked her fury. "All you did was attempt to bury the truth with money," she said, voice trembling. "You've destroyed our marriage, our child's future, everything." They stared at each other across the empty boardroom. For the first time, Oliver's confident mask cracked, revealing a man trapped by his own misdeeds. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked, voice hollow. Ava couldn't answer. She was no longer sure there was anything left he could do to make this right. In the ensuing days, the corporate fallout grew dire. Prominent investors in Carmichael Innovations withdrew support, worried about the scandal's impact on share prices. Philanthropic partners quietly severed ties, not wishing to be associated with an affair so brazenly exposed. Oliver spent most nights at the office attempting to salvage deals. The mansion felt more like a tomb than a home. Paparazzi still lurked outside the gates, waiting for a glimpse of the troubled couple. Ava found herself pacing the halls, mind whirling with uncertainty. A scheduled charity event for the Wilson Children's Hospital. A cause close to both Oliver and Ava dropped Oliver from the speaker lineup. This move spoke volumes. If even the hospital Oliver once championed was distancing itself, he was rapidly running out of allies. Realizing that her own philanthropic work was now at risk of being overshadowed by scandal. Ava called Liz White, the crisis manager she had worked with months ago. Over coffee in a secluded part of the city, Ava poured out her worries about the baby, the paparazzi, and the unrelenting media scrutiny. Liz listened sympathetically. "You need to start thinking about your own image, Ava, not just Oliver's. Because right now everyone sees you as the victim. But if this keeps spiraling, they might start seeing you as complicit or naive." Ava swallowed hard. She didn't want a war with Oliver, but it was becoming clear she needed to protect herself and her unborn child. She left that meeting with Liz, knowing she had to make some hard decisions, and soon. By now, the Carmichael scandal was headline news across major networks. CNN's Anderson Cooper, having previously hinted at the moral failings of the powerful, dedicated a segment specifically to Oliver's downfall, inviting legal and ethical experts to weigh in. The public response was brutal. Many saw Oliver as the epitome of hypocritical arrogance, preaching philanthropy, while betraying his pregnant wife behind closed doors. At the mansion, Ava tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. She kept her prenatal appointments, attempted to rest, and even started decorating the nursery in a soft palette of yellows and greys. Yet every trip out was a gauntlet of flashing cameras and shouted questions. She began dreading the very thought of leaving home. One particular morning, the tension became unbearable. Oliver returned from another fruitless series of investor meetings, shoulders slumped. When he saw Ava packing a suitcase in the master bedroom, a flash of panic ignited in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice trembling. "I'm going to stay with Delilah for a while," she replied, zipping the suitcase shut. "I need space. This environment isn't healthy for me or the baby." Oliver opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Instead, he deflated like a punctured balloon, slumping against the doorway. "Ava, please," he finally managed. "I'm losing everything. I can't lose you too." She looked at him, sadness washing over her. "I wish you'd thought of that before, Miranda. I need time to figure out if there's anything left worth saving." His eyes brimmed with tears, but he said nothing more. Ava dragged her suitcase down the grand staircase, stepping out into the barrage of paparazzi alone, her heart heavy with betrayal and sorrow. It was during Ava's stay at Delilah's cozy brownstone that she received a phone call from a blocked number. Although she usually avoided unknown calls, something compelled her to answer. A soft voice introduced itself. "This is Miranda Devereaux. Please don't hang up." Shock rendered Ava momentarily mute. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Why would Miranda call her directly? She contemplated ending the call, but couldn't resist her curiosity. "What do you want?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. Miranda sighed on the other end. "Believe it or not, I never intended for this mess to go public. Someone else got hold of the security footage. I can't say more without jeopardizing my safety, but I wanted you to know it wasn't me who leaked it." Ava's throat tightened. "That doesn't change what happened or how you and Oliver—" She paused, tears threatening. "You ruined my marriage, my life." A moment of silence passed. "I understand you hate me," Miranda said quietly. "But I'm calling because there's something else you should know. Oliver has been hiding more than just our affair. He's in deep trouble legally and financially. I'm sure you've noticed the deals collapsing around him. It's not just because of the scandal, there's a federal probe into his finances. Tax evasion, money laundering, I'm not certain. But it's serious." A swirl of nausea hit Ava. The idea that Oliver's downfall was bigger than an affair blindsided her. "How do you know this?" she finally managed. Miranda hesitated. "Let's just say I overheard some conversations." "Be careful, Ava. If the feds get involved, they won't hesitate to come after anyone close to Oliver, even you." Before Ava could respond, the line clicked off. She stared at her phone, heart racing with a new dread. Oliver's betrayal might pale in comparison to a looming legal catastrophe, and she was now unwittingly entangled in it. Miranda's warning weighed heavily on Ava's mind. She remembered Delilah's earlier recommendation to consult a lawyer. After days of sleepless nights, she mustered the courage to do just that. Through Delilah's referral, she met Samantha Holden, a skilled divorce attorney, known for her tenacity in high-profile cases. They met in Samantha's sleek downtown office, shielded from prying paparazzi. Sitting across from the polished oak desk, Ava felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as she recounted Oliver's affair and Miranda's foreboding message about the feds. Samantha took thorough notes, her brow furrowed. This is bigger than just infidelity, Ava. If Oliver is facing a federal investigation for financial crimes, you need to protect your interests. If marital funds are implicated, the government could freeze assets. The words froze Ava's blood. I don't know the first thing about these allegations. I'm pregnant. I just want my baby to be safe. Samantha offered a sympathetic smile. I understand. My advice is to quietly file for legal separation. That way you create a clear line between your finances and Oliver's. If he's in legal jeopardy, it may protect you and your child from any fallout. And if things get worse, we can move forward with a full divorce. Though the idea of legally distancing herself from Oliver filled Ava with sadness. She knew it might be her only chance at safeguarding her child's future. With trembling hands, she signed an engagement letter, officially hiring Samantha as her attorney. As she left the office, a flurry of mixed emotions assailed her: grief for the marriage she once cherished, anger at Oliver's deceptions, and a glimmer of relief that she was finally taking control of her own fate. In the aftermath of the leaked video, Oliver's reputation took a nosedive. Investors fled in droves, stock prices for Carmichael Innovations tumbled, and philanthropic projects froze. The media was relentless, and yet the public had not heard directly from Ava beyond a few brief sightings and no-comment statements. The tabloids, sniffing blood, began speculating wildly. Was Ava quietly arranging a divorce settlement? Had Oliver threatened her into silence? Some articles even suggested that her pregnancy was a fabricated ruse to garner sympathy. When Liz White, the crisis manager, called to check on Ava, she proposed a bold solution. Ava, you need to tell your side of the story in your own words. Let the world see you're not just a silent, suffering wife. Ava hesitated. Standing in front of a microphone, addressing a horde of reporters while pregnant, no less, sounded terrifying. But Liz's argument made sense. The rumor mill was devouring her in absentia, and with Oliver refusing to come clean about his affair or financial dealings, it might be time to cut ties publicly. I'll do it, Ava finally said, surprising even herself with her resolve. But I'm not lying or covering for Oliver anymore. I'll tell the truth just enough to protect myself and my baby. Liz agreed, her voice brimming with encouragement. Leave the logistics to me. I'll arrange a controlled press conference, minimal chaos, but be ready. Once you open that door, there's no going back. Ava closed her eyes, feeling the baby move. She understood the gravity of her choice. This wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about reclaiming her identity and ensuring her child wouldn't be born into a vortex of secrets. In the days leading up to the press conference, Ava resided in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She prepared statements with Liz White, conferred with Samantha Holden, and braced herself for the inevitable media frenzy. All the while she heard almost nothing from Oliver. Then on the eve of her scheduled press appearance, she received a late-night phone call. It was Oliver, his voice shaking with desperation. Ava, please don't do this. Don't go public. It'll ruin any chance I have left to fix things. She steadied herself, fighting back tears. You've had every opportunity to fix this, Oliver. You chose not to. This press conference isn't about vengeance. It's about protecting myself and our baby. The silence on the other end was palpable. Finally, he spoke, a voice hollow. I understand you're angry. But you have no idea the legal mess I'm in. A public spectacle will just invite scrutiny. It could land me behind bars. A hollow laugh escaped Ava's lips. That's not my fault. You did this to yourself. Oliver's next words chilled her. If you ruin me, you ruin the future of this family. Think about that before you step in front of those cameras. She hung up, breathing heavily, as if she'd just run a marathon. For a moment, doubt tugged at her. She still cared for the father of her child, even after all his betrayals. But the time for illusions was over. Ava swallowed the lump in her throat and reminded herself why she was doing this, to clear her name, to safeguard her baby's future. Oliver had made his bed. Tomorrow, the world would finally hear her side. Morning dawned on Chicago gray clouds gathering in the sky, as if foretelling the tumultuous day ahead. Despite the swirling anxiety in her chest, Ava felt an unexpected sense of calm. She'd chosen a simple but elegant maternity dress in a soft ivory shade, the color symbolizing a fresh start in her mind. Liz White and Samantha Holden met her at the small conference venue, an airy minimalist space rented for the occasion. They'd intentionally avoided the grandiosity of a hotel ballroom, hoping to keep the focus on Ava's message rather than ostentatious surroundings. Security guards milled about outside, ensuring the event remained somewhat contained. Inside, journalists from major outlets like CNN. The Chicago Tribune and local TV stations fidgeted with microphones. Cameras were poised, ready to broadcast every second. The hush in the room was electric. Ava's heart drummed like thunder in her ears. She kept a hand on her belly, drawing strength from the life growing within. As Liz guided her onto the small stage, Ava spotted a handful of supportive faces in the front row. Delilah, Samantha, and even a hospital representative from Wilson Children's Hospital who had come to show solidarity. Taking a steadying breath, Ava stepped behind the podium. Flashbulbs sparked, and a wave of murmurs filled the room. The tension was thick like a coiled spring on the verge of releasing. It was time to speak her truth, not just about the affair, but about the flawed man behind the philanthropic facade and the toll his secrets had taken on her life. The calm before the storm was over. Ava Carmichael was about to face the world head-on. The conference room fell silent as Ava approached the microphone. For a moment, she simply stood there, letting the bright camera lights and hushed anticipation wash over her. "Good morning," she began, voice trembling slightly. "I'm Ava Carmichael. I'm here to address the rumors and speculation regarding my marriage to Oliver Carmichael." Eyes from every corner of the room locked onto her. Journalists leaned forward, pens poised. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of emotion. Ava's heart pounded like a drum, but she pressed on. She spoke of her pregnancy, how she had longed to start a family in a loving, stable home. She confessed that Oliver's affair was both devastating and humiliating, that she had discovered undeniable proof of his betrayal. She explained that while she once considered standing by him, his continued deception and the possibility of deeper legal entanglements made it impossible for her to remain silent. At one point, a wave of emotion gripped her. Ava paused, tears threatening to cloud her vision. She glanced at Delilah, who offered a reassuring nod. Summoning her courage, Ava continued. "I'm not here for revenge," she clarified, voice growing steadier. "I'm here to protect my child and to separate myself from the lies that have come to light. Any future decisions, including legal ones, will be made with the well-being of my baby in mind." When she finished, the room erupted in questions. Liz stepped in, reminding reporters to keep their inquiries respectful and that Ava's attorney would handle anything pertaining to potential lawsuits. Ava exhaled, her body trembling with relief and nerves. She had done it. She'd laid bare her pain, her intentions, her truth. At that moment, she had no idea how drastically this single press conference would alter the course of Oliver's life and hers. Ava's press conference ricocheted through the media like a lightning strike. Clipped segments ran on national news networks. The full recording went viral on YouTube. Social media platforms erupted with support, condemnation, and endless debate. Hashtags like Stand with Ava and Carmichael Collapse trended simultaneously. Public perception of Oliver flipped almost overnight. People who once admired him for his charitable work now saw him as a manipulative hypocrite. The sincerity in Ava's statement made it clear she was not seeking revenge, but merely staking her claim to dignity and security for her unborn child. A day after the press conference, CNN's Anderson Cooper weighed in again, praising Ava for her courage and condemning the toxic culture that allowed powerful men to evade accountability. The Chicago Tribune published an op-ed titled "The Strength of Ava Carmichael, Lauding Her Poise Under Pressure." Corporate repercussions were swift. A major investment round that Oliver had been courting fell apart. The few remaining partners in Carmichael Innovations distanced themselves, hastily removing Oliver's name from promotional materials and websites. Even philanthropic boards started voting him out to preserve their reputations. Ava watched the news unfold from Delilah's living room. It felt surreal to witness the magnitude of the fallout she had unleashed by simply speaking her truth. A twinge of guilt gnawed at her. Oliver's downfall was monumental, and part of her still cared about the father of her child. But she couldn't deny the satisfaction of finally freeing herself from complicity in his deception. Little did she realize the next blow in this unraveling saga would come not from tabloid headlines, but from a place with the power to permanently reshape Oliver's destiny and, by extension, her own. Just when the media firestorm seemed at its peak, another bombshell dropped. The U.S. Attorney's Office announced a federal investigation into Carmichael Innovations. News broke that Oliver Carmichael was being indicted on charges of tax evasion, wire fraud, and securities fraud. The timing, mere days after Ava's press conference, sent shockwaves through financial circles. Cameras swarmed outside the federal courthouse as Oliver was spotted arriving with his legal team, forced to enter a plea in front of a judge. The humiliating spectacle was broadcast live, capturing every grimace and tense exchange. The very networks that once celebrated Oliver's philanthropic feats now tracked his every misstep. Ava learned of the indictment through a news alert on her phone. Her stomach churned. She sat on Delilah's couch phone in hand and watched the live coverage. Oliver looked haggard shadows under his eyes, the weight of impending consequences etched into his every movement. The charges carried severe penalties, if convicted. Oliver faced the possibility of a long prison sentence. This was beyond mere scandal. It was a life-altering reckoning. Yet the indictments also served as a shield for Ava. With formal charges laid against Oliver, Samantha Holden moved swiftly to bolster Ava's separation case, ensuring none of the allegedly laundered funds were connected to Ava or her unborn child. As the news cameras pivoted from sensational gossip to grave legal analysis, Ava felt a swirl of conflicting emotions. Relief that she was extricating herself from Oliver's web of lies, sorrow for the father of her child, and a haunting worry about what kind of future lay ahead for her baby, one with a father potentially behind bars. The day after Oliver's court appearance, Ava woke to a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry." "Oh." She stared at the message for several minutes, waves of sadness rolling through her. His apology was too little too late, like a whisper in a roaring storm. But it was better than silence. Over the next week, Oliver's attempts to contact her became more frequent. Voicemails and texts appeared daily. Ava listened to some tears gathering in her eyes as Oliver's usually confident voice cracked with desperation. He begged for forgiveness, confessed he had been reckless, and claimed to still love her. Yet Ava couldn't forget the nights he'd lied to her face. She couldn't erase the memory of that leaked video or the swirl of scorn she'd endured from the public, and she certainly couldn't ignore the federal charges. Samantha advised her not to respond, at least until the separation process and potential custody arrangements were established. But deep inside, Ava grappled with conflicting emotions. She remembered the Oliver who once left her handwritten love notes every morning, the Oliver who built a children's library wing at the local hospital. Could that man still exist? Or had he always been an illusion? In quiet moments, she would place a hand on her growing belly heart, aching for the child who might never know a father outside prison walls. For all Oliver's sins, Ava couldn't deny that she wished he had chosen a different path, one that might have let them remain a family. Despite the turmoil, Ava discovered she wasn't alone. In the wake of her public statement, letters of support flooded in from women who had faced similar betrayals. Some messages came from single mothers who offered encouragement and practical tips on raising a child independently. The outpouring moved Ava to tears. It gave her a renewed sense of resolve. Philanthropic circles that had once rolled out the red carpet for Oliver now embraced Ava instead. Organizers at the Wilson Children's Hospital invited her to speak at an upcoming fundraiser, praising her authenticity and resilience. Representatives from various women's advocacy groups reached out inviting her to collaborate on initiatives that assisted pregnant women in crisis. Ava felt a flicker of hope. Though her marriage was crumbling, she could funnel her pain into a new purpose, advocating for women caught in relationships eroded by power imbalances and betrayals. Delilah even suggested they start a foundation to provide legal and emotional support to pregnant women facing domestic or financial struggles. Yet with each invitation came the inevitable question, what's next for Oliver's wife? The irony wasn't lost on Ava. She was no longer Oliver's wife in any practical sense, but the world still tied her identity to his. She resolved to carve out her own name and mission, separate from his tarnished legacy. In her quieter moments, though, when the well-wishers and supporters had gone home, she still faced the emptiness left by Oliver's absence. Even with the world rallying around her some nights, she felt more alone than ever. A few weeks into Oliver's legal battles, Ava received a call from his attorney. He wanted to arrange a private meeting. No press, no cameras, just Oliver and Ava in a neutral location. The request startled her. A part of her had begun to imagine a future with no direct contact at all. Despite Samantha's caution, Ava agreed, feeling the child shift in her womb, like a gentle reminder that Oliver was still the father. They chose a small law firm's conference room downtown, with tinted windows that blocked any paparazzi from capturing the encounter. Oliver arrived first. Dressed in a tailored suit, he looked paler, thinner, and burdened by a stress that had etched lines into his face. When Ava entered, they locked eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The tension was so thick she could barely breathe. Finally, he broke the silence. "I know I've lost your trust, and maybe I'll never regain it. But I wanted to see you to ask about the baby." His voice was hushed, almost reverent. Ava swallowed, placing a protective hand on her belly. "The baby's fine, healthy," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'm due in a few months." Oliver exhaled a shaky breath, a mixture of relief and sorrow. "I made an unforgivable mistake. And now I'm paying for it in ways I never imagined. But if there's any chance at all, I want to be there when our child is born." A swirl of conflicting emotions welled in Ava. She wanted to protect herself, to keep him at arm's length. Yet she couldn't deny the child's need to know its father, assuming he wasn't behind bars. I can't promise anything right now," she replied cautiously. Oliver nodded, understanding that words wouldn't erase the hurt he'd caused. The meeting ended quietly with more questions than answers. As Ava left, she wondered if there was any glimmer of reconciliation, or if it was simply too late for that. Time moved forward, even if Ava felt stuck in emotional quicksand. Weeks turned into months, and her pregnancy edged into its final trimester. Her belly swelled, making everyday tasks more cumbersome, but also filling her with a fierce, protective love for the child growing inside. Oliver's legal battles took center stage in national media. Each court date brought fresh revelations of financial misconduct, fraudulent tax filings, shady shell companies, and possible insider trading. Courtroom sketches of Oliver flooded the news, capturing his anxious eyes and trembling posture. Still, he occasionally sent Ava messages, updates on his case lamentations about losing major assets, even an ultrasound-themed baby blanket he had purchased before the scandal blew up. Ava read and received these gestures with guarded compassion. She was no longer naive enough to believe they fixed anything, but she could see the desperation in his attempts. Meanwhile, Ava's philanthropic work blossomed. She collaborated with Liz White to hold a charity drive for underprivileged pregnant women, collecting baby supplies, prenatal vitamins, and funds for maternal care. The event drew significant media coverage, with many praising Ava for turning personal tragedy into positive impact. Through it all, she grappled with her upcoming childbirth, uncertain whether Oliver would or should be there. The clock was ticking toward a new life entering the world, and she had yet to reconcile the role Oliver would play. As each day passed, the question burned brighter. Could a man so consumed by lies and greed ever become a loving father? Ava's labor came unexpectedly one evening well before her due date. She had been at Delilah's brownstone, finalizing details for another charitable event, when a sharp pain sliced through her. Gasping, she doubled over, her heart pounding in sudden alarm. Delilah rushed her to the nearest hospital, the swirl of city lights casting an eerie glow against the anxious hush of the car ride. By the time they arrived, Ava's contractions had intensified, leaving her breathless and trembling. Nurses whisked her into a maternity suite, hooking her up to monitors. Panicked Delilah contacted Samantha Holden, who in turn thought to call Oliver's attorney. Within an hour, Oliver appeared at the hospital, looking frantic and disheveled. The medical staff recognized his face from the scandalous headlines, but remained professional. Ava, though startled to see him, was too overwhelmed by pun to protest. Time blurred in a dizzying swirl of contractions, medical jargon, and shouted encouragement. Ava was gripped by a primal blend of fear and determination, tears leaking from the corners of her eyes. Oliver hovered by her side, tentatively offering a hand. In her pain, she grasped it instinctively. Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, Ava heard the baby's first cry. Relief and awe collided in her chest. The nurse carefully placed a tiny, wriggling infant in Ava's arms. She sobbed pressing kisses to the baby's delicate forehead. Through tear-blurred vision, she saw Oliver standing nearby, eyes shining with raw emotion. In that instant, their entire scandalous past receded, eclipsed by the fragile miracle of new life. Yet the question lingered. Would this fleeting moment of unity carve a lasting path forward for them? Or would the shadows of betrayal and legal peril snuff it out? Back at the hospital, Ava watched as Oliver gently rocked Amelia, his face softened with awe. For a moment, he looked like the man she once loved before Leeson scandal. He whispered stories to Amelia, promising to change to be present. Ava remained guarded. "This doesn't undo everything," she said quietly. "I know," Oliver replied, eyes on their daughter, "but I want to earn your trust back for her." Later, as discharge papers were signed, Oliver asked if he could come home with them. Ava paused, then shook her head. "Not yet. Amelia and I need time." He nodded visibly, crushed but respectful. "Thank you for letting me be here." As she cradled Amelia and stepped into the waiting car, Ava felt both the weight of the past and the hope of a future. Trust was fragile, but for her daughter's sake, she was willing to leave the door cracked just enough. In the weeks after Amelia's birth, Ava embraced motherhood in quiet refuge, away from media glare. Oliver, facing trial, visited often gentle with Amelia, sincere in his efforts. Ava remained cautious, but let him in a little at a time. Then came his sentencing. Found guilty of tax evasion and securities fraud, Oliver received 5 years in federal prison. Outside the courthouse, tears slipped down his face as he told Ava, "I'll serve my time. I hope there's still a chance for Amelia, and maybe for us." Ava, holding Amelia close, replied softly, "We'll see. One day at a time." As Oliver was led away, Ava stood beneath the Chicago sky, her daughter nestled in her arms. The fairy tale had crumbled, but something more honest remained, a second chance. Not for romance, but for truth, for healing, and for a life finally free of secrets. She was ready to build that future, one step at a time. Ava Carmichael's life changed the moment the leaked footage of her husband's affair hit the internet. But it was the power of her own voice at that pivotal press conference that truly redefined her destiny. While Oliver's empire crumbled under the weight of his transgressions and legal battles, Ava emerged stronger, driven by her love for her newborn daughter and a determination to carve out a future rooted in truth. Ultimately, hers is a story of resilience, triumphing over betrayal of motherhood, guiding the path to self-discovery. Ava transformed from a silent figure, overshadowed by her husband's fortune, into a public advocate for women facing emotional, financial, and marital turmoil. Though Oliver's journey led him to a prison cell, Ava found the courage to stand on her own, proving that even the darkest revelations can pave the way for newfound purpose.